I'm just going to say right from the get-go, this movie is pretty effed up. We are talking WINEVILLE, and this is directed by former Playboy playmate Brande Roderick, who also produced and stars in this movie. And to describe this in a just a kind of a log line, so to speak, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets the Hallmark Channel, but with a really kinky twist. Okay, let me explain. So, this movie takes place in the late 70s, and we follow single mother, played by Brande Roderick, who has inherited a vineyard and winery from her father. Now, the father has died, but didn't have a will, so it's gone to the next of kin, which is this single mother. And during her childhood growing up in the family home, she was abused, raped by her father, and as such, it's a kind of somewhat stressful situation, as you can probably imagine. So she goes there with her young son, but it appears that there is some type of killer on the loose who is killing people in this local area. So when she arrives at this vineyard, and she's met by her aunt, the sister of her late father, and like a farmhand called Joe. And there's lots of kind of salacious interpersonal relationships kind of going on here without kind of revealing too much. But of course there is a killer, and all things come to a head. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So that's as far as I really go in the plot synopsis here. So let's talk about it, what works in this movie's favour. So, just to give you some context, I get sent a lot of screeners to review here, and a lot of them seem, well, at first glance, to be, generic kind of horror films. And I have to be honest with you, this one initially I thought, it's going to be a slasher that's killing people and making wine out of blood. I found this movie to be a little more mature in a way, and more complex than I initially suspected. I have to say, I thought this movie was very good, and I'll go into some context, but this is a film where I went in with no expectations, but I wasn't going to think, oh yeah, this is going to be a really good one. But I have to say, this movie, for me, I was so pleasantly surprised. I thought this was a very good movie overall. So, why would I say that? What kind of context can I bring here? So let's talk about the look of the film first of all. So as I said, this takes place in the mid to late 70s, and I thought they nailed the look of this movie. It really kind of does look like a movie set in the correct period. The hairstyles, the costuming, that sort of thing, the attitudes. I thought they did a very good approximation of the 70s, and of course, then you've got it likens the look of it to the likes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We have this kind of out of the way vineyard, this kind of dusty, kind of deserty sort of setting. It does evoke certainly that kind of grindhouse feel of these kind of slasher movies. So yeah, I think the look of the film is done to great effect. I think the acting is solid in this movie. I believed every character. I thought the actors gave a nuanced performance. We even have the child actor, who is the son of Brande Roderick's character. I thought did a good job, and has a mix of emotions through the movie. Now, I don't want to spoil anything in regards to plot, but let me just say there's a lot of kind of drama in this movie in regards to familial relationships, and as such it's a kind of roller coaster in regards to emotions. So everyone here has differing relationships, shall we say, and I thought everyone did a good job with some emotional beats that change through the movie as relationships evolve, more information is given. So I thought everyone did a solid job here. It is a horror film, so obviously you'd expect some horror elements here. And I have to say, I thought the kills were gory. There's not loads. This is not like a slasher film where it's just a maniac going around killing people. It's a lot more story and character driven than that. But when we do get these scenes of violence, I thought they were done to a good standard in regards to the VFX work, all practical, I'll point out. And even, if you know the channel, you know I watch a lot of horror movies. There's even one scene which I legitimately winced at. So, you know, for a film to do that to me, it's got to be kind of quite effective in my view. So I thought the violence, when we do see it, is impactful. It looks realistic. I think the gore effects, I mean, you know, it's not a medical drama. It's not like necessarily completely realistic, but it's realistic enough where I think you can kind of, you buy into the kind of the scene here. And then we have this kind of, and again, I'm going to be vague here, the story elements, and at first glance it seems, you know, not all that complicated. But as things are revealed, you're thinking, man, this is some messed up stuff going on here. And it doesn't stop. It just seems to, it's like peeling off layers of an onion. You know, you think there's been a reveal and then you find out there's something else that's kind of going on. So I have to say, it was pretty good in regards to its sort of story, both the way the story is actually constructed, and then as the movie goes on, the reveals and how they kind of feather it in to kind of like think, oh damn, no, this puts a new dimension on this kind of like situation. So that was pretty good. It even makes you somewhat feel a little bit of sympathy for our antagonists. It's all I was going to say here. So I thought this was overall a solid movie. Now, what I'm going to say next, I think could be taken as a positive and a negative, depending on what you want from this film. So, one of the things I feel this movie makes it feel maybe unique among the sort of slasher films is that it feels a cross between a drama and a slasher. This isn't really a guy... The focus of the story isn't a killer going around killing a bunch of people. There is that, but it's more about, it's effectively like I say, a Hallmark drama that's very salacious, but you have a slasher in there as well with some pretty brutal stuff going on. So it's almost like 60% drama, 40% horror. But when the horror hits, it's effective. Now, I think this gives this movie a very unique style, and it's certainly its own identity. And there are, you know, horror movies that have had elements of that, certainly. Even the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But for me, it almost plays more like a drama, but just with some quite severe horror elements. Don't get me wrong, there is plenty of horror stuff here. And even some of the dramatic elements are kind of quite horrific. But it just gives it this, like, the sense of drama. And because it's so well played, so well kind of like put together, it really, I think, makes this film have a very unique and its own identity, which really works for me. Do I have any negatives here? Now, coming just on from that, maybe people won't want a more dramatic film. If you're just wanting a slasher movie, which is an A to B plot where the killer is just going killing people and we get our final girl, you know, and there's lots of inventive kills. This movie has that element, but it isn't the main element here, is what I would say. So if that's kind of the type of horror film that you want, you may think, oh, it's just full of like relationship kind of stuff, and that's not what I want from a horror film. So I do feel maybe the story could be potentially divisive. I actually kind of quite liked it. I made it, you know, it made it for me feel very unique in a way, and very kind of have its kind of own thing going on. But I can understand if you want to watch this more for a straightforward horror film, you may be, oh god, it just, you know, I want more kills, I want more, you know, bloody masked killers and things like this. There are one or two things here where I felt the movie dipped into dumb movie logic. For example, we have a police character who doesn't call for backup at a very opportune time when you thought any kind of realistic person would do this. We have a scene where stuff's going on in a barn and all the characters are in a barn, but somehow it's locked from the outside. Doesn't really make sense. So there's a few things kind of like that, you know, it's just kind of like, it's not really realistic in regards to certain sort of little movie kind of logic things here. So, you know, there's kind of that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of an epilogue. I think it ends somewhat abruptly. If I'm honest, it's not a major critique. I think the story's definitely wrapped up, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more in regards to the fallout from the movie. But overall, I've got to say, I thought this was a strong movie. And if you're interested in a slasher movie that has an element to it which I think makes it unique, it is very salacious. I'm not gonna lie, there's things here that are like, ooh, damn, that is like, and it's kind of kinky. It's there. So again, that may be a taste issue. But I've got to say, I thought this movie was an incredibly well constructed, low budget slasher film that actually manages to carve out its own identity in a very, very crowded field. And as such, I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. I thought this was a thoroughly enjoyable film. And this movie came out of nowhere. You know, I had this, was not on my radar at all. And even when I thought I got the screen, I thought, well, that looks generic. But it's actually a really, really pleasant surprise. So, yeah, an 8 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? Would you see it based on what I told you? Please do let me know, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.